All right, let's talk about the Atlanta Falcons here for a little bit. Look, we're in the depths of preseason. We're down to the final game of the preseason. Training camp is essentially done at this point. A lot of practice is still to go, but most of what we see from what NFL roster, specifically the Atlanta Falcons, is relatively set in stone. Now the battles come down to the final few roster spots. But there's been a really big undertone to the Falcons offseason. That, of course, has been the revitalize of their franchise with new quarterback Desmond Ridder. But we've got some interesting news about how the Atlanta Falcons have clearly and definitively made a really smart move going the Desmond Ridder direction. And I think Atlanta fans will really appreciate this report.
Yeah, Nick, I think the Desmond Ridder move was really smart, and this one thing shows how smart it was and just how well the Falcons have set them up for this coming season. But speaking of the coming season, Falcons fans, there's a lot of great games on the lineup. You've been able to get excited through the preseason already. You've been excited through OTAs and training camp. Now it's time to see these guys step on the field. And I want to know, what game are you the most excited about seeing them play in this season? What Falcons game are you the most excited about? Obviously, got the heated division rivalries, whether it's the Saints, the Bucks, anyone like that, or some out of division games maybe you don't get to see as often. So let us know in the comments below what game you're most excited to see this season. But Nick, let's get on into it. What's going on with the Falcons?
So anytime you make a move, right, especially you're making a quarterback change, it's not just how good is the guy that's coming in. The answer is not, of course, how good is Desmond Ridder going to be. It's what is his upgrade over the current starter. Obviously, the last season, that was Marcus Mariota. Obviously, Mariota's had an okay career at this point, has had some success, with the Tennessee Titans. He's now with the Philadelphia Eagles. And it's very interesting if you look at Mariota's performance through the preseason so far with the Philadelphia Eagles. Miles, if you want to go ahead and throw up the statistics that we found and dug up involving Mariota, if you look at his performance through the Philadelphia Eagles preseason games so far, it is disastrously bad. 57.1 completion percentage, 5.14 yards per attempt, 56.25 pass rating. To put that in context, those numbers were ranked respectively second to last if that was prorated through the entire 22 season for the completion percentage, dead last yards per attempt. Again, if that was the result over the entire season, and his pass rating would also be dead last. Now, look, part of it is preseason, so you sit there and say, well, it's a small sample size. I went back and just as luck would have it, we were researching some stuff for a Browns film. I went back and watched Marcus Mariota play as an Eagles against the Cleveland Browns. He looked terrible, missing open guys, taking sacks, missing quarterback center exchanges, running back exchanges. Did not look good at all. Really, really struggled. Just didn't look clean. The stats didn't look good. His performance didn't look good. The film didn't look good. Now, when you juxtapose that against Desmond Ridder, 7 of 9, good scoring drive, moved the ball very well. The one interception was off a deflection. Don't really count that against him too much. He looked very much controlling the offense. Even if his throws were off target, they were maybe a little off target. When Mariota was missing throws, he was missing them by a mile. I think it's clear, and these stats specifically show it, and the film does just as well, that the Atlanta Falcons clearly made the right move, moving off of Mariota and fully dedicating to Desmond Ridder, especially when you consider the insane amount of talent that's around Ridder. I think Arthur Smith and company deserve a lot of credit for making this move because there was some pressure, right? Some people wanted them to go Lamar Jackson. Some people weren't sure about Ridder. It's looking like right now that they really made the right call, and things look really good for the Falcons because of it. But Miles, let me throw it over to you now. What do you think of everything involving Ridder, the Falcons, and just the changes they made at the quarterback position?
Yeah, Nick, I think one thing that you touched on is his preseason performance so far. And I kind of want to go a little further into that and bring up one point that I think is really important. Because when you watch preseason, usually, like you said, it's a wash whether, once you get into the later, quarters of the game, second, third, fourth quarters, there's guys out there, you don't know who's playing, what level of the depth chart is out there at any given time. You can't really tell too much. But one thing you always should know is when the starters are out there, you see the starting quarterbacks out there, you see guys like that out there playing, it does give you a good indication of how things are going. And Marcus Mariota is supposed to be a starting level quarterback. This isn't allegedly some scrub, some backup quarterback. This guy who started for the Falcons, he started for the Titans. He should be good. He should be, lighting these second, third string defenses up. This is a guy who should be putting on a clinic. And quite frankly, he is not. He has looked disastrous. He has been very unimpressive so far. 144 yards total within 2 games, no touchdowns, 1 interception. Really just hasn't been too good at all. And that is something that you do not see or expect from a starting caliber quarterback whatsoever, much less a backup. A backup should even be doing a little bit better than that. I think he's struggling to stay alive to be Jalen Hurts' backup this coming season. He's not shown a ton of progress or, redemption from last season, the early exit from the Falcons. So I think this is a really important point, that this guy who is supposed to be a starting level quarterback is out there in the preseason struggling against second and third string defenses, not being able to get his reads off, not being able to make the proper throws. So this does look like a really great move by the Falcons. They saw something really early on. They saw the promise in Desmond Ridder, but like you said, it's not about how good Desmond Ridder is. It's about how much better is he than the person he is upgrading. And he seems to be tremendously better than Mariota so far.
Yeah, Miles, if I'm going to give this a little historical analogy, this reminds me very much of the 2012 Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks, for those of you who don't remember, Pete Carroll was still a young coach trying to prove his chops in the NFL, has had some NFL success, but really not a whole lot. They bring in Matt Flynn, the quarterback who was Aaron Rodgers' backup for Green Bay, to come in and be the franchise guy. They throw away a third-round pick on Russell Wilson. A lot of people weren't really sure how good Wilson was going to be coming out of college, coming out of Wisconsin, playing for NC State in Wisconsin and in college. He goes to the Seattle Seahawks. Very quickly, the Seahawks realize that they have something in Wilson as a young guy. He brings maturity, he brings accuracy, bring a strong set of physical tools. The Seahawks at that time were young and talented on offense with playmakers at the running game. Marshawn Lynch, good offensive line, starting to sound a little familiar to the Atlanta Falcons, right? Pete Carroll moved off of Flynn, handed the keys to Russell Wilson. They went on to go to 2 Super Bowls and win one of them. I'm not saying that's exactly what's going to happen here with the Atlanta Falcons, but it sounds eerily similar. And look, when you look at the talent around Atlanta right now, Desmond Ridder just has to be decent. We talk about it all the time. He doesn't have to be spectacular. He doesn't have to, be Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes or anything like that. He just has to be not as bad as Marcus Mariota has been if you look at his numbers, or frankly, look at his performance last year. If he's better than Mariota, which he has been up to this point, his camp so far has been very solid. He'll likely continue to get better. If he just maintains that track and is just above average, they'll win a lot of games. Very similar to Russell Wilson's early tenure in Seattle with the Legion of Boom and the talent they had running the ball on that team. I think we're seeing a very similar dynamic play out in Atlanta, and I think Falcons fans should really be excited by that.